y'all. Welcome back to Gadfly, the podcast about third parties, French candidates, and just generally weird American electoral history. I'm Dusty Wilson.
I'm Una O'Leary.
And we got one today.
You have been hyping this up, I think, for a few days. I have no idea what we're talking about.
Oh, it's I think I was hyping it up a lot because, for one, it has one of my favorite things in the world to make fun of at the end. But also, I was kind of in a rut where I didn't know what episode we were going to do next. Battle of Aspen was really the last one that I knew for a fact I wanted to do this year. And so when I stumbled upon this, it became pretty much an obsession.
Oh, nice. Yeah,
a bit of a trigger warning up front on this one. There is going to be moments of heavy antisemitism and heavy racism. So heads up on that. If you want to skip, I'll probably put in a timestamp in the description. So if you just want to skip to the end of us making fun of something that is going to be very fun to make fun of, I'll make a note in there. You can skip to that point, but just want to give folks a heads up that that's going to be some of the fun we're going to be dealing with today.
Excellent.
Yeah. So while trying to figure out who to cover next, I started to wonder what the origin story was for the phrase "America First."
Oh boy. Oh geez.
For some reason, I have this vague memory of Donald Trump claiming that he invented the phrase, but I might be misremembering him saying that about some other oft-used set of words.
No, I'm sure he did.
Yeah, I feel like it was something early on where he was just like, it's really brilliant, people should have done this already. But now it's definitely a lot more associated with him than anything from the past. But prior to becoming one of the many mantras of our current hellscape, where did it originally come from? And the answer is nowhere good.
Yeah. Oh, I'm feeling and I'm seeing the wormhole as you're falling down it, looking through this.
It's a delightful thing because not delightful because it keeps getting worse, and it will keep getting worse in many different ways. Some of which are satisfying, some of which you just wanna shake a decade.
If your internet search of this could be visibly anything, it would closest resemble a human centipede. That's what I'm getting from this.
100%. This is the human centipede 3 of research. Where it's like, yeah, I guess you had to do it, and I don't really want to look at it, but we're here. Let's at least get this done.
Let's get to the end.
So all that being said, today we are talking about Gerald Lyman Kenneth Smith, the founder of the America First Party.
It was a party?
Amongst so many things.
Oh, boy.
So Gerald was born in 1898 in Partyville, Wisconsin, but he grew up in the town of Iroquois in Wisconsin as well. At the age of 18, he was ordained a minister of the Disciples of Christ, which is a denomination of the Protestant Church. I can't really find one way or another if they're like super hardcore or super not. Nowadays, they seem to be leaning towards the more not hardcore, since they are like, yeah, it determines by church if you let LGBTQ couples get married.
Got it.
But it's not like a hard thing from the top saying, yeah, you have to do this, or you should do this. But he also came from a family that, the Disciples of Christ seem to have been founded in the 1800s, and it seems as though he was just a long line of people in his family who became ministers of this particular sect of Christianity. So 2 years after turning 18, he would graduate from Valparaiso University with a degree in biblical studies. Now, based on his speaking voice, I'm not entirely sure how much I would have cared for him as a minister. His pacing is very much a ha-ha, ha-ha, ha-ha. And it kind of starts out loud and peaks at brimstone loud. And from what I've read, historians really waver on the quality of his speaking. Some saying that he was one of the greatest orators of his time, and others just calling him loud and uncharismatic.
I've never heard of this guy, so let's disregard the greatest orators of all time, just outright.
He sounds like kind of a 1930s radio announcer with weird pacing. So in 1928, Gerald would leave the Midwest and move to Shreveport, Louisiana. His wife had caught tuberculosis, and Gerald received word that Shreveport had one of the best hospitals to deal with the disease, which at the time you would pretty much just go out into the countryside, get a lot of fresh air, and that was kind of generally considered to be one of the better ways to treat TB. It was shortly thereafter that he met the man who would push him into the national spotlight, the kingfish himself, Governor Huey Long. To go over everything about Huey Long would probably take about an hour unto itself and then another 3 hours on top of that. But to summarize, Huey was one of the most amazing politicians this country has ever seen, and a completely corrupt piece of shit at the exact same time. There's a really good episode of The Dollop about Huey Long where Gareth Reynolds, who does the Una O'Leary part of the podcast, just consistently wavers going back and forth between I love Huey Long and fuck this guy.
Amazing.
Gerald would end up meeting Huey at the time that he was the governor of Louisiana, and after this, Huey would also become senator of Louisiana. And while in Louisiana, Huey became extraordinarily popular, espousing his own brand of workers' rights populism, fighting for people suffering through the Great Depression. Gerald found his beliefs to fit perfectly with Huey's, and the two started working side by side. In 1934, this would result in Long's founding of the Share Our Wealth movement. Huey would be the spokesman and leader, while Gerald became the national organizer. The Share Our Wealth movement was a mix between a protest movement and a preliminary presidential campaign, featuring 8 planks that Long and his followers wanted the government to enact. And I'm really excited to see what you think of these. 1. No person would be allowed to accumulate a personal net worth of more than 300 times the average family fortune, and a capital levy tax would be assessed on all people with a net worth of more than $1 million. So using 2016 average family savings, that would mean that no one could possess more than $12 million.
Yeah, make it so. But yes, please.
2.
Good Lord.
Annual incomes would be limited to $1 million, and inheritances would be capped at $3.1 million.
There's no cap on it right now, right?
Oh, no, not at all.
No.
Like there's a quote-unquote death tax, as the Republicans like to call it, because you got an inheritance, you need to pay taxes on it. But that's about as close as we got. 3. Every family would be furnished with a homestead allowance of not less than 1/3 the average family wealth of the country. This would be a universal basic income of $13,333 based on 2016 statistics.
Oh, what I would do with that money.
I know, right?
Oh.
An old age pension would be made available to everyone over 60. The government would preserve and store surplus goods, abolishing the practice of destroying surplus food due to lack of purchasing power. Now, this was really big during the Great Depression, too. There were so many pictures out there of farmers just dumping milk onto the ground because no one's buying it. That was number 5. Number 6, veterans would be paid a pension and get healthcare benefits.
Oh,
7,
yeah.
everyone would get a free education and or training in all schools, universities, and job training facilities.
Oh, that just, how many more? Because I'm already losing myself.
Well, we're at the last one. These programs would be funded via taxes assessed on people who exceeded personal fortunes or allotted yearly incomes. Also, jobs would always be available due to public works projects that always need completed.
Yeah, like bridges.
Yeah.
Civil service.
Yeah, weirdly, I just saw a thing on Twitter today of an old Black Panthers poster from the late 60s that said there's no such thing as a job shortage. There's just an unwillingness to do public works projects or to fund public works.
Oh, yeah.
And so this is something that Huey Long put together in 1934, a thing that now Democrats are slightly moving in favor of.
Like,
yeah. But at the time, this was completely fucking radical shit.
Yeah.
I believe that the primary cause of the Great Depression and the thing that kept it going was growing income disparity, and that the only way to end the suffering was to give the little guy and the rural poor a leg up. As Long would say in his program's motto, every man a king, but no one wears a crown.
Ooh, that's good.
Yeah. A number of people, mostly on the right, viewed Long as a direct threat to Franklin Roosevelt, and thought that his plans would completely destroy the New Deal programs FDR had put into place. Not to mention, it would make a lot of wealthy people a fuck-ton less rich. Many people also viewed this as Long's attempt to challenge FDR in 1936, predicting he would run against FDR in the Democratic primary, lose, and then launch his own third party to ultimately win. Gerald Smith outright stated, quote, "The only way they will keep Huey Long from the White House is to kill him." And then Huey Long was assassinated.
Shut up!
Yep.
What?
So, luckily this isn't like some sort of sneaky deep state bullshit. This is a moment of comeuppance for Huey Long being a corrupt asshole.
This is where him being a jag-off comes into the story.
100%. So what Huey had done is he had redrawn a district so that a judge that he didn't like would end up losing his judicial seat. And so the judge's son-in-law...
Such a weird flex.
But it's how it was. He was just like, he's Huey Long. He's the fucking kingfish. What the fuck are you gonna do? And so the judge's son-in-law showed up at the Louisiana State House and shot Huey Long.
Wow.
Yeah, the guy shot Huey Long once in the gut, and Huey Long's bodyguard shot him back 60 times.
Okay, calm down.
Yeah, a little much. It was a devastating blow to the Share Our Wealth movement. Huey had been such a force behind it that he was pretty much the only personality that could keep it afloat. But it wasn't going to die with Huey. Not if Gerald L.K. Smith had anything to say about it. Smith would take over as the lead of the movement and very quickly created a new political party to enter the 1936 presidential election, just like Huey had planned. The party would be dubbed the Union Party, and Smith very quickly brought on two of the biggest names associated with the movement to lead the party with him. First was a physician and businessman from California named Francis Townsend. Francis had become nationally famous for what he called the Townsend Plan. At the time, there was no such thing as Social Security, and when you got old, if you didn't have anything saved, you were fucked. And in the midst of the Great Depression, this left a lot of elderly and extremely impoverished situations. Francis himself was inspired to create his plan when one morning he looked out his window to find two elderly women searching through his trash for food.
Oh.
The Townsend Plan was fairly simple. Every person over the age of 60 would get a $200 a month stipend, and this would be funded by a 2% national sales tax. $200 would equal about $3,782 today. The only requirement to getting those $200 was that you had to be retired, quote, free from habitual criminality, and you had to spend all of that money in 30 days.
Whoa.
Yeah. So not super great for saving, but Francis's idea was in the middle of the Great Depression, what you really need is to jumpstart the economy. And if suddenly you had everyone over 60 spending about what would, to us would be $4,000 all at once,
yeah,
it's going to help out a lot of people very, very quickly.
Yeah.
Townsend first revealed the plan in 1933, and within 2 years, over 3,400 Townsend Plan clubs had been formed nationally, each one calling Congress to try to get Francis's plan legalized. So the second big name that Smith brought on board was a man by the name of Father Charles Coughlin. Is that a name that strikes a bell?
Little bit.
Oh no.
Little bit.
So, as his title would suggest, Charles was a Roman Catholic priest out of Royal Oak, Michigan. He was also easily the most popular priest in all of America. Charles had early on adapted to the newfangled technology of radio, and by the time Smith teamed up with him, Coughlin had a following of about 30 million people tuning into his weekly radio show. At first, Coughlin started out speaking predominantly on faith, but also spent his first few years railing against the KKK in Detroit because they had burned a cross in front of his own church. By 1930, he was encouraged to speak more on politics, which is where things took a really fucked up turn. You see, Father Coughlin really did not like the Jews at all, and he spent a lot of time accusing them of running the banks and causing the Great Depression.
So much, yeah.
This anti-Semitic turn landed Father Coughlin in a national contract with CBS. Father Coughlin would branch out into anti-socialist and anti-communist rhetoric as well, but also spewed a ton of hatred towards capitalists. Coughlin would state, quote, "Let not the working man be able to say that he is driven to the ranks of socialism by the inordinate and grasping greed of the manufacturer."
I mean, I guess.
Yeah, and this is the weird thing about these people is they kind of sound socialist for a little bit, but then they sound really conservative out of nowhere. I don't know where they expect this middle ground to actually live, but this middle ground was extraordinarily popular thanks a lot to Huey Long.
It's great. Like, I don't know, you think about, I think our understanding of socialism, like now in terms of how it's become this vindictive boogeyman word from the right and everything, and it always seems to start from the 50s, like total disregard of the fact that so many people were socialist and, you know, like, I guess communist curious during the 30s, and then the blacklist happened and yada yada yada.
Yeah, like we brought it before, prior to World War I, the socialist movement in America was gaining a lot of steam, and then a lot of the supporters died fighting in the war. Yeah. Thanks, Franz Ferdinand. Really appreciate it.
Great band.
Yeah, God damn it. Within a year, Father Coughlin was booted from CBS, not because of the anti-Semitism, but because he didn't want them to review his scripts before he went on air. So Coughlin went independent and created his own radio syndicate, featuring his own show, The Golden Hour of the Shrine of the Little Flower.
Ugh.
What do you
also
not like
the name of his porn video. God.
Well, I mean, to be fair, his church was called the holy name of the Shrine of the Little Flower or something like that. So I kind of
such a mouthful.
The whole title's bad. I mean, I could definitely see that it was not edited very much like his scripts.
Yes. Oh yeah, that it's because I'm thinking about how he was essentially the Alex Jones or who's the guy who came before Alex
Glenn
Jones?
Beck.
Who was just thank you.
I think Alex Jones came before Glenn Beck, but Glenn Beck got famous before Alex Jones.
Right, and it's just like that title is just like a couple words away from sounding like today's male enhancement supplements that are shrilled on Alex Jones's show, or just like Quicksilver drink thing stuff.
Like, to me, it sounds a lot like an early 2000s alt rock band name song. Where it's like I could totally see the Mars Volta having a song called The Golden Hour of the Shrine of the Little Flower, and it's 15 minutes long.
or it's the Shrine of the Little Golden Flowers opening up for Belle and Sebastian.
You know, that was a really embarrassing show to go to because all I knew was that song that if you're feeling sinister, then go see a minister. I was so bored. So in 1936, the Union Party had formed a great triumvirate, the spokesman for senior pensions, the most popular priest in the whole nation, and the successor to Huey Long himself. The Union Party would initially test the waters in the 1935 Chicago mayoral race, running lawyer, self-described progressive, and raging anti-Semite Newton Jenkins. Jenkins would run under the banner of, quote, the third party. The race itself was fairly doomed from the start, seeing how incumbent Mayor Edward J. Kelly was unstoppably popular. But it was a fairly successful test run, resulting in Jenkins getting 8.3% of the vote in a three-way race.
Ooh.
It was enough of a success for the party to push forward for a presidential run, and they got to work selecting someone that both a supporter of Huey Long and someone with a solid grudge against FDR would like, Congressman William Lemke of North Dakota. You see, Lemke, along with North Dakota Senator Lynn Frazier, had co-written a piece of legislation called the Farm Bankruptcy Act. The Depression was wreaking hell on the farmers, and multitudes of people were losing their livelihoods to banks that controlled mortgages on their farms. This new bill would restrict banks from being able to repossess farms for a 5-year period, during which the farmer could make rental payments on the property and eventually buy back their farm at 1% interest. The bill passed through both houses, was signed by FDR, and then declared unconstitutional the next year by the Supreme Court. Undaunted, Lemke reintroduced the bill, this time calling it the Farm Mortgage Moratorium Act, knocked the 5-year period down to 3, and would allow banks to sell the repossessed property. But if farmers were able to match the price that the farm sold for at auction, then the bank would be legally required to sell it to the farmer.
All right, but what if they didn't have the money?
Oh, then it goes to whoever buys it. Yeah, it's not perfect, but it might get past the Supreme Court.
Yeah, okay.
The bill is set to pass through both houses of Congress, but FDR informed Lemke that he would veto it if it came to his desk. Roosevelt was certain the bill would be found unconstitutional all over again and wasn't willing to sign a plan that wouldn't be long for the legal world. Lemke was furious and pushed the bill forward anyway. It would pass, survive Roosevelt's veto, and end up surviving the Supreme Court challenge that followed. It would end up remaining law until it expired in 1949.
My God, the little bill that could.
Yeah. However, it is believed that FDR's veto threat was the entire reason that when the Union Party came a-callin', Lemke agreed to run. The Union Party was pretty much doomed from the beginning. Because if the Romans are any indication, when you make a triumvirate, it's not gonna work. The only reason all of us know the word triumvirate is that it comes before Julius Caesar killing 2 people. It doesn't work. And it turns out that Townsend, Coghlan, and Smith all viewed each of themselves as the de facto leader of the party, and none of them even slightly considered Lemke to be the one in charge.
Wow.
It also didn't help that each man brought with them a cult of personality that believed very different things. Under Huey Long, these personalities could be kept in check by a clear standard bearer. But without Huey, all 3 went about acting like their point of view was the one that defined the party. Most notably, Coghlan seems to have turned Smith into an equally anti-Semitic jackass by this point, while Townsend and Lemke were fond of Jews. The hateful sect of the group did a lot more to push away progressives that supported more anti-capitalist ideas, but didn't have any problem with Jews whatsoever. 1936 really was not the year to have any kind of political discord, especially in a brand new party. FDR would end up cruising to the biggest landslide victory in American history, winning 523 electoral votes to Republican nominee Alf Landon's 8.
Oh my God.
While Lemke would get 13.4% of the vote in his home state and pull 5% in Massachusetts, Minnesota, Rhode Island, and Oregon, nationally he'd only end up with 1.95% of the vote. The result was so disastrous that Smith, Townsend, and Coghlan immediately dissolved the party right after the election.
Yeah, stick a blade into the stomach of that party. Just get it over with.
In fact, 1936 pretty much spelled the end for Townsend and Coghlan as well, but for very different reasons. For Townsend, it was for a pretty decent reason. His Townsend playing clubs had called so often that FDR was forced to make some kind of plan to satisfy them. So he created Social Security. It wasn't as grand as Townsend's plan, but it was enough for Francis to retire from the public eye and feel contentedly victorious. Francis Townsend would live until the age of 93.
When he collected Social Security?
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah. So yeah, ultimately, Francis just kind of went back into obscurity, completely content and successful.
Oh.
As for Father Charles Coghlan, well, he retired from radio out of sheer embarrassment of the loss. He then unretired 2 months later. You see, he kind of had a bit of a new philosophy that was all the rage over in Europe. And it was this thing called fascism. You see, Father Charles had gotten so frustrated and fearful of communism that he viewed fascism as the only thing that could definitively destroy it. Using Hitler as an example, Hitler was doing a pretty good job getting rid of communism.
Yeah, getting rid of a lot of things. Lots of
his own people early on. And it was at this time that Father Charles would go to the radio praising people like Benito Mussolini and Adolf Hitler. And it got to the point that he was even actively campaigning to get rid of democracy entirely, viewing it as a thing that would absolutely get communism put in place if communism was given enough time. He also began publication of his own magazine called, you're gonna love this, Social Justice. That's right, Father Coghlan was a social justice warrior.
No! And thus ends our episode on where the term social justice warrior comes from.
Oh, Well, it gets even worse because one of the first things that he published in Social Justice was, in its entirety, well, over a period of time, a little book called The Protocols of the Elders of Zion.
No.
So if there was a class on Antisemitism 101, The Protocols of the Elders of Zion would be required reading. So the basic summary, because I don't want anyone to read it, it's complete bullshit. It's also probably boring. I don't know. Just because it's written as though it's a series of minutes taken at a meeting, and I don't see how that could be good or interesting. I don't want to read your diary, weird Russian anti-Semite.
Wait, and I'm assuming the meetings were from like the, I don't know, age of the first temple of, like, when were the minutes?
So the general idea behind it is, I believe, a group of 12 Jewish leaders who remain anonymous in the book meet up to discuss the ways that they are going to take over the world. And someone was taking minutes and then published those minutes.
Oh my God.
Yeah, that's the general idea. But it's also a complete fucking forgery. No one knows who wrote it, but it appeared in Russia in 1913. It ended up spreading to America when Henry Ford printed about 500,000 copies and just gave them out for free.
Oh, Henry Ford.
Yeah. Well, and to make matters worse, the FBI Records Vault's Twitter recently released the entire version of the Protocols of the Elders of Zion, completely without context or reason stated in their tweet. It's just the Protocols of the Elder of Zion.
What? Because they didn't have Hillary emails socked away for this election year.
Well, I mean, their official statement is someone made a FOIA request. And there's a bot that they have that just puts it up on their Twitter anytime the records are public domain.
This is all so dumb. Like, I'm sure it was originally written as a joke between friends, and now
it was not written as a joke. It was written as an evil plan between jerks. But yeah, it's considered to be like the Bible of anti-Semitism. And Father Charles Coughlin published it in his fucking Social Justice magazine.
Ew.
So this fashy turn for Father Coughlin led to the Vatican trying really, really hard to get him off the airwaves. The problem was, though, that Father Charles is it bishop? Is it cardinal? Whoever runs his diocese really liked
Archbishop.
Yeah, really liked Charles Coughlin, so he wasn't going to take him off the airwaves no matter how many times the Pope asked.
But meanwhile, the Pope is like, you're not just saying the quiet parts out loud, you are screaming them into a microphone. Stop it.
But it wouldn't be until the U.S. entered World War II that Father Coughlin's influence would be completely cut off. It turns out he was facing a potential charge for sedition, because you're supporting the fucking Nazis, Chuck. And so Coughlin agreed to stop his radio show and publication of Social Justice in exchange for being allowed to keep his parish position. Coughlin abstained from political activity and remained the priest of the parish of Royal Oak until he retired in 1966. He would die in complete fucking obscurity.
Ugh.
As for old Gerald, he wasn't going to let something like a severely embarrassing political failure and a shameless hatred of Jews in the midst of World War II stop him. It probably should have, but it didn't. You see, by the time the next election cycle in 1914 had rolled around, a completely new organization had formed on the campus of Yale University, the America First Committee. Founded by R. Douglas Stewart Jr., the heir to the Quaker Oats fortune, and current law student at Yale at the time, the organization's sole goal was to encourage FDR to refrain from entering World War II as he had promised in 1939. Initial members of the Yale chapter would include future President Gerald Ford and future Supreme Court Justice Potter Stewart. The committee was formed following the fall of France to Nazi Germany. Most isolationists and peace-minded Americans had feared that since France had come under Nazi control, FDR would go back on his promise for America to remain neutral during the war. The AFC put forward 4 straightforward principles. 1, the US would build an impregnable defense for itself. 2, if America is fully prepared, then no one will attack us. 3, American democracy can only be maintained by staying out of the war. And 4, aiding the war effort abroad financially only makes America weaker. The meteoric rise of the group is pretty mind-boggling, especially since within the first year, the committee had 800,000 members and 450 chapters across America. The Chicagoland area would become the epicenter of the movement and featured 17% of the nationwide membership. The group would even snag General Robert A. Wood, the corporate executive of Sears, Roebuck & Company, as the official chairman of the committee. And it kind of appears as though the initial reason for this is actually kind of good and earnest. World War I had been such a disastrous war for everyone involved, and it kind of made people realize just how devastating war could genuinely be, and that it's not this heroic thing that's gonna suddenly turn out perfectly well for everyone.
Right. It's the potential to lose another generation of able-bodied men.
Exactly. And so the general idea was, well, this is Europe's problem. This is Asia's problem. They're leaving us alone. Why would we get involved? The real problem, though, would come from who they selected as their spokesman. Aviation hero Charles Lindbergh.
Oh, great.
Yeah. At the time, it had to have felt like an amazing coup to pick up someone who so vocally despised Franklin Roosevelt, but who also brought along a ridiculous amount of clout. To give an idea of how big of a deal getting Lindbergh was, when he first spoke for the group in Los Angeles, he attracted a crowd of 30,000 people.
God.
The thing with Lindbergh, though, is he's kind of had a bit of a bias. You see, in 1937, he had been invited to Germany to view the buildup of the Luftwaffe Air Force. He'd also been awarded the Commander Cross of the Order of the German Eagle from a notorious lunatic and war criminal, Hermann Goering. Whether or not Lindbergh was an actual Nazi is something that comes to great debate amongst biographers and historians.
But let's just say yes.
Look, the ones who say he's not a Nazi are like, look at his journal. It says there's some good Jews.
Yeah, let's just call it for the ages.
Yeah, he was probably definitely a Nazi. And it also didn't help that during a speech after his return from Germany, he encouraged Americans to look at, quote, who owned the papers and who influenced the speakers who were for stopping Hitler's conquest of Europe. Do you hear that dog whistle?
Gee.
Right in the
President
background.
Soros keep popping into my head.
Oh my God, 6-year-old George Soros is really.
Oh.
So if that wasn't loud enough of a dog whistle for you, let's skip ahead to September 1st, 1941. A year and a week after the founding of the AFC, where Charles gave a speech in Des Moines, Iowa, and said this, quote, "It is not difficult to understand why Jewish people desire the overthrow of Nazi Germany. The persecution they suffered in Germany would be sufficient to make bitter enemies of any race. No person with a sense of the dignity of mankind can condone the persecution the Jewish race suffered in Germany. But no person of honesty and vision can look on their pro-war policy here today without seeing the dangers involved in such a policy, both for us and for them. Instead of agitating for war, the Jewish groups of this country should be opposing it in every possible way, for they will be among the first to feel its consequences. Tolerance is a virtue that depends on peace and strength. History shows that it cannot survive war and devastation. A few far-sighted Jewish people realize this and stand opposed to the intervention, but the majority still do not. Their greatest danger to this country lies in their large ownership and influence in our motion pictures, our press, our radio, and our government."
I mean, I feel like I'm listening to outtakes of the RNC. I don't know.
Oh my God, Charles Lindbergh absolutely would have been a speaker this year.
Yes. He would have been like yell at an empty chair.
Yeah.
Type of speaker. He would because he's a little celebrity. That's what they could grab.
So this speech caused a decent chunk of people to get very angry at the AFC.
Good.
But it actually fueled Gerald's interest in forming an alliance with them. I mean, Gerald already hated Jews, and Lindbergh's open fandom of eugenics fit perfectly with Gerald's perversion of the Share Our Wealth movement into a version of white supremacy.
Oh, no. This took such a hard turn.
It's pretty much nothing but hard turns. I'm so sorry. But oddly enough, the AFC declined Smith's offer. Apparently, they found his racism and antisemitism to actually be too much.
What?
Yep.
What was he actually saying?
We'll get to it.
Oh, no.
But even if the AFC had said yes and formed an alliance with Gerald, it would have been a short-term win anyway, since the AFC would disband days after the attack on Pearl Harbor in December of 1941.
Yeah, really, really hard to go up against that.
Yeah. Now that America was in full-on World War, Gerald had to change up his strategy. And 1942 would be one of his busiest years. First, he moved from Louisiana to Michigan and personally ran in the Republican primary for senator. However, he would finish in second place with 31.45% of the vote. Undeterred, he began what would be one of his 2 lifelong legacies, the Christian Nationalist Crusade.
Oh, boy.
I mean, what's wrong with that set of words?
Oh, boy. Just perfectly innocent words that put together is just not good.
All right, so I'm getting this from a speech that he gave in the 1950s, and I'm pretty sure listening to it on YouTube has put me on one very shitty list. But it lists the 10 principles that Gerald viewed as the most important to his Christian nationalist crusade. Get a bucket, this is gonna be rough.
All right, I've steeled myself.
All right, 1, preserve America as a Christian nation, because there are groups of people who want to make it a Jewish nation.
Wait, I'm sorry, he had to underline the fact, it's like, make it remain a Christian country because we're aware of the subtext. You don't need to continue.
Oh no, it's single entendres all the way down now. This is
Gerald's
got nothing left to lose. He's found his people now, and his people he owns and runs.
And this man was an orator.
Yeah, this man preached religion to people for at least a couple decades.
Yikes.
2, expose, fight, and outlaw communism. 3, safeguard American liberty against the menace of bureaucratic fascism. I don't even know what that fucking means.
Pick one! God!
4, maintain a government set up by the majority, which abuses no minority and is abused by no minority. Also, no race mixing.
Stop! No!
Yeah, this is exactly where Gerald Smith started to talk a lot about interracial marriage.
Oh, no.
5, protect and earmark national resources for our citizenry first. 6, remain friendly and trade with all nations and sign alliances with none. 7, oppose a world government. 8, prove that anyone can enjoy more abundance under the true American system than any other.
But we won't let you in.
Yeah, well, funny you should say that.
Oh, no.
Because the one right after that is safeguard America's tradition in relationship to immigration, which is a fancy way of saying keep everyone out.
So many of these points could be boiled down to just, fuck all y'all, I got mine.
Yeah, yes, 100%. Also, I love that essentially 8 and 9 is make the world jealous and don't let them have anything.
Make the haters hate.
It's like a toxic bully at your school who's just like, I'm not even going to invite you to my party. It's going to have tigers.
We'd have so much chocolate.
Oh my God. There's going to be a chocolate fountain. We're going to dip the tiger in it and then eat it.
You can't eat it.
No. 10, enforce the Constitution as it pertains to our monetary system. All right, so this is the most vague, but definitely feels pretty dog whistly about Jewish folks, but I don't know how because he doesn't go into detail after saying this. He just says this shit. I don't know if he means he wants to open a national bank. I don't know if he wants to go back to the silver standard. I don't know what the fuck he means. I hurt my hand hitting the desk.
Wait, so it was just that, just like secure our monies?
Yep, by the Constitution. Whatever the Constitution says, that's how you secure our money.
Yeah, that's more emoji of Dave Chappelle holding so many like dollar bills in front of him. Again, yeah. It's just like, I got's mine.
Yeah. So that was the basis of the Christian nationalist crusade. You know, very Christ-like in so many ways.
It's so Christ-like. Fuck all y'all.
So I know this is going to be a huge shock, but the goal of the organization was to spread as much racist and anti-Semitic bullshit as humanly possible, and very much took after Father Coughlin by publishing their own copies of the Protocols of the Elders of Zion, as well as Henry Ford's own hate screed entitled The International Jew.
Oh, and all of this is during World War II.
Yeah. This is, it's moments like this where it's just like, Gutenberg, you could have just held off on the printing press. I don't think we needed it. You could have made, like, shoes or dresses with pockets or...
That would be my third party, though. It's dresses with pockets.
Oh, this is a Gutenberg. It has 20 pockets. It's all pockets. So Gerald would also begin publishing a monthly magazine out of St. Louis, Missouri called The Cross and the Flag. These people are bad at fucking names, Una. I want to stress this. Fascists can't name shit well.
The Cross and the Flag is like the worst children's book in the style of Frog and Toad.
Oh no! The Fascist Adventures of Frog and Toad.
It is just anti-Semitic from the get-go. It is poorly edited.
Oh no!
There's several typos.
Every page is just completely off kilter because they couldn't get the stapler right.
Oh my God.
So the reason that he named his magazine this is because Gerald has the biggest crush on General Douglas MacArthur.
What?
So Douglas MacArthur, notoriously well known as an incredible general, but also a humongous Christian. And at one point he had stated the two greatest symbols of this American civilization are the cross and the flag.
I love a thirst trap.
It's if fan fiction existed back then, I'm pretty sure there'd be a weird subset of just like Douglas MacArthur and Gerald Smith getting together.
All written by men.
Oh yeah, 100%.
So much, yeah.
Meanwhile, Gerald
they're just brothers in arms. Guys, they're just brothers in arms.
Oh my God, I just got that. Well, I guess I'll start writing that 13-part series then.
Yes!
Meanwhile, Gerald decided to keep running for Senate in Michigan, but this time as an independent write-in candidate. So usually this would spell complete doom and utter shame. And yeah, he'd finish 3rd out of 4, beating the Prohibition candidate, but he would end up getting 2.7% of the vote as a write-in fucking candidate.
Yikes.
That's not great.
God damn it, Michigan.
All right, so now we've had a lot of not so great history here with Jerry. But things are about to take a turn from the scary to the satisfyingly pathetic.
Mm.
When 1943 rolled around, Gerald Smith did the one thing that any asshole in America would do in the midst of World War II. He joined William Dudley Pelley's Silver Shirts. So Pelley was an out and proud Nazi, and he created the Silver Shirts in 1933 as an American version of Hitler's brown shirts. Now it's a little
cool. Show of hands for our listeners who just learned, who were this year old when they learned about that.
Yeah, it is. The Silver Shirts are not great. Also, they had to be very expensive to get a silver shirt back then.
I mean, not if you're coming from Aspen.
God damn it. Come for the skiing, leave for the silver shirt. Now, it's a little hard to get the date of when exactly Gerald joined the Silver Shirts, because the resource that I found said he joined in 1943, but technically the group ceased to be in 1941 when William Dudley Pelley got arrested for violating the Espionage Act. But Gerald is confirmed to be member number 7,223. So either he joined early on, or in the span of 10 years, the Silver Shirts had only gained about more than 3,000 members. Either way, it makes it totally fine and historically accurate to call Gerald L.K. Smith a fucking Nazi.
Yep.
And this Nazi in 1943 formed one of the most spectacular failures in political history, the America First Party.
Amazing.
Initially, Smith wanted Charles Lindbergh to run, but Charles was busy supporting the war effort in the Pacific Theater, having turned to support the war after Pearl Harbor happened.
After reading the room.
So instead, the new party had no choice but to nominate Gerald as their presidential nominee. Following a convention that featured at least one Silver Shirt speaker named Homer Mayers, who had been convicted of acts of terrorism against Jewish people in Chicago. It would be pretty easy to assume that the American First Party was actually a US branch of the Nazis at the time.
Yeah.
Now things get a little weird when it comes to who they decided to select for vice president. The American First Party selected the governor of Ohio, John W. Bricker, to support Gerald. Thing is, though, Republican nominee Thomas Dewey had already selected Bricker to be his VP nominee the month prior at the Republican convention. The reaction from Bricker and Dewey was pretty much immediate. From the San Bernardino Daily Sun, quote, Bricker, reached by telephone in Columbus, Ohio, said of the Detroit nomination, I know nothing about it. I know no one connected with it. I shall not permit my name to be used in any such connection. I am a candidate for the vice president of the Republican ticket only.
The 1940s new phone, who dis?
New telegram.
New telegram. Ahoy, hoy.
God damn it. Dewey would state that this was, quote, a sinister effort to smear Bricker's good name, and that Smith is one of those rabble-rousers who, like Adolf Hitler, makes racial prejudice his stock and trade. After a short fight, Bricker would be removed from the America First ballot, and he would be replaced by United Farmers of America president, and I shit you not, this is his real fucking name, Harry Adolph Romer.
I mean, there's on the nose, and then there's just...
So this is a weirdly unsettling thing, is the United Farmers of America is a workers' union that still exists today, and during World War II had a real Nazi problem for a while.
What?
It's so fucking weird.
It's so, I mean, is it just like a lot of, I don't, I'm not even going to go down the road. Why? What is it about the cows?
Well, I guess this might give you an idea. So this is a shitty fact followed by a fun fact. Romer would claim that he, quote, has prospered not because of the Jew, but in spite of the Jew. But, you see, Romer lived in St. Henry, Ohio, a town of about 500 people at the time. And if today's data is any indication, today about 96.5% of the population of St. Henry, Ohio is Roman Catholic, hence the name St. Henry, Ohio. So pretty sure old H. Adolph Romer probably didn't know too many Jews who lived in his town and probably never interacted with any at any point.
100%.
And hey, guess what? When you run on Nazi beliefs and actively join Nazi causes in the middle of World War II, you typically don't do very well in an election.
No, you don't.
It's a great pleasure to say that Gerald finished in completely last place. He got, nationally, 1,781 votes.
Wow, and half that probably came from St. Helen.
He didn't get enough votes to beat out all the random write-in votes combined. He lost to 2 different versions of none of the above.
That's amazing. That I love.
But, I mean, you know how wordy assholes can be. They can finish in dead last and still think they're right. So in the 1948 presidential race, Jerry renamed the America First Party to the Christian Nationalist Party. They also rebranded a bit, and to separate themselves from the Nazi associations in 1944, they made a logo that featured the Nazi Iron Eagle above the letters CNP.
So they just made the iconography more Nazi.
Yeah, different name, new Nazi.
And like New Coke, it was not better.
No. So Smith and Romer would run again, and this time, they finished in not last. They would end up beating out a member of the Greenback Party, which is a party that hadn't really existed since the 1880s, and a guy named John A. Maxwell who was running for the Vegetarian Party.
The Vegetarian Party. Oh.
Literally all I can find out about them is that John A. Maxwell ran for president under that banner for many a years. I assume he loved carrots.
Oh, that's so cute.
That being said, Smith and Romer's total vote haul was 42.
Nationally,
at a time when there were 48 states of the Union, they got 42 votes.
42 votes. That's beautiful.
In 1950, the Christian Nationalists would run 5 candidates in Missouri, and all of them would do really badly. 3 finishing in last place, and the best candidate only getting 0.32% of the vote. Also, the 5, who were all upper echelon party members and workers within the Christian Nationalist Crusade, ended up having a huge falling out the next year that led to 3 of them getting arrested for trespassing and attempting to break into the Christian Nationalist Crusade's printing shop. Even when they fail, they still find a way to fail more. It was really funny because I was reading, there's a tiny newspaper article about this where it's just like the 3 members had split from the party and they were literally just standing in front of the printing press door with a hammer and a blackjack, and the cops went by and they're like, what the fuck are you doing here? And they're like, oh, we're just seeing if the printing press still works.
Oh my God. And wait, what year was this?
1950.
Oh yeah. So Nixon gets wind of this and is like, I can do that better.
Look, I could keep friends for more than a year. I can do this. So it's been a rough run for Gerald. He tried the America First Party, didn't work. He tries again in 1948 with rebranding, does even worse. So now in 1952, the Christian Nationalists decide to team up with another party, the Texas-based Constitution Party, who had recently splintered away from the GOP and have zero relation to the modern-day Constitution Party.
There's too many Constitution parties.
Look, if there's a Constitution Party, run. They're never good. None of them are ever good. I hate to say it, the modern-day Constitution Party is the best version of this party that has ever existed.
Oh, Lord. No. This is the happiest timeline of the Constitution Party.
And so with the assumption that, yeah, you have 2 parties, obviously things are going to be better. You have people with connections to the GOP. You're going to get more votes. This is going to work out. And that might have happened if the convention in Chicago wasn't a complete fucking disaster. It seems a bit that the Constitution Party wasn't super familiar with Gerald's hatred of Jewish people. It didn't react well when conspiracy theorists Upton Close delivered a speech just full of anti-Semitic nonsense. After his speech, this led to the Constitution Party's chairman and co-chairwoman to immediately resign and leave Chicago.
Yikes.
And things didn't get too much better during the nomination process. So I don't know if you remember last week when we were talking about Rocky getting the American Independent Party's nomination and they nominated Kanye as his VP.
How could I forget?
Yeah. And the question arose, well, can you force a nomination against someone's will? Right. Well, in 1952, it seems like you could.
Non-consensual nominations.
They nominated Gerald's man crush, General Douglas MacArthur, for president, and Senator Harry Byrd of West Virginia for vice president. Neither candidate knew this was going to happen, and neither of them supported it. Byrd would even legally attempt to get his name taken off the ballot, but legally he wasn't able to.
What?
And both of them would end up disowning the party vocally, which had to really hurt Gerald for as much as he loved Douglas MacArthur. But in future speeches, he still talks very fondly of the general.
Notice me, senpai.
Ooh, woo, general. Hashtag fascist Arechiga. Anyway. That's gonna go real well. Anyway. The thing though this time is they had a bit of a better plan. So Gerald's not been doing so good in the popular vote. So the plan was, instead of getting on state ballots, they would just go up to the various delegates and convince them to vote for Douglas MacArthur instead of whoever the states asked them to vote for. And just kind of have a soft fascist coup.
Oh my God. Yeah. An offer they couldn't refuse.
Yeah. Well, it's an offer they all refused. None of them.
Amazing.
Weirdly enough, when you ask someone to vote against someone that they have vocally said they will support, they're not going to change their minds. So seeing that start to fall through, they actually ended up getting on the ballot in a number of states and just decided to run anyway. They would end up getting 17,205 votes, and they would finish 7th overall, which would end up being a pretty huge boost. But the downfall was Gerald L.K. Smith succeeded in pissing off literally everyone in the Constitution Party, and right after the election, the party split.
Amazing.
And in 1956, the Constitution Party would run again, this time joining up a Strom Thurmond segregation-focused states' rights party. And together, they would finish 3rd overall.
Oh boy. Well, Strom Thurmond just has that charisma.
Oh my God.
So
it's like if you could
no shock.
If you could make an old barely working vacuum sentient, I think it would sound like Strom Thurmond.
It would definitely look like him. Just a squat old 1950s vacuum.
It's like, I bet if I blow in his ear, it gets really big for a second and then... But, you know, Gerald isn't really one to stay out of a political race again, so he decides to run in 1956 for president. And he would run as the Christian Nationalist Party candidate. And Una, I really want you to guess how many votes he got this time.
150?
Too high.
50?
Once again, too high. Una, nationwide, he got 11 votes.
Oh my God, that's when you sit with your campaign and realize that you have more than 11 relatives.
Well, the thing is, I was reading through a lot of the Christian Nationalist Crusade, and it is just filled with stories of people who worked under Gerald for a long time, worked under him, writing tracts in really weird pamphlets. And there was one called I was branded with the number 666, which is about a guy who claims that he was raised to be the perfect communist leader, but then found Christian nationalism and now he fights for God. You know, bullshit. And the guy who wrote that quit being Gerald's friend after 3 years.
It's like, I can't take it anymore.
The man is incapable of friendship. This
is amazing. Is he still, like, at this time still married? Does he have kids? I'm so curious now. He
was married to his wife for his entire life. They like stayed together. She survived tuberculosis. They stayed together. Their son, I believe, was adopted. But yeah, they you know, it was a marriage that lasted. You know, two anti-Semitic racist pieces of shit found each other in this crazy world.
Stephen Miller can, I guess. It's possible.
That's so unfair to everyone.
80s.
So lucky for the country, this would be the very last time that Gerald Smith would involve himself in politics. He moved the Christian Fascist Society to Glendale, California, and moved into a new realm of anti-Semitism that was kind of getting big at the time: Holocaust denial.
That new thing that's sweeping the nation.
Look, are you tired of the old anti-Semitism? Well, I got one that's really going to razz your shorts. And Holocaust denial. So from what I could tell, Gerald Smith is a pioneer of Holocaust denial, a sentence I never wanted to say.
Here we are.
Here we are. This is the road I chose, and here we fucking are.
To misquote Hyman Roth, this is the life we have chosen.
So Gerald's theory of what actually happened in Germany is it's unique. His theory is that millions of Jews weren't systematically murdered by the Nazis. What actually happened is each and every one of them emigrated to America at some point during the war.
Dusty, I can't with the complete lack of reality that some of these candidates have. It's like,
I don't know if anyone walked up to him and was like, Jerry, you do realize that America repeatedly refused asylum to the Jews prior to World War II and during World War II, right?
It's not even that. I'm sure in his elucid brain, he imagined that the Jews just literally appeared, like they were just teleported by some weird Jewish magic.
Yeah.
And arrived in the Navajo desert.
Oh my God. And then like, just spread out.
Yeah. It's that kind of just like, this is not good. It's just bad insanity. It's just dumb insanity. It's not even interesting.
Well, and I'm sure his theory is probably like, you know, there are a lot more Jewish people in America now than there was during the war.
Yes!
Yeah, maybe there's a reason they don't want to be in Germany right now.
Ipso facto.
Checkmate, Jews. I have set the board on fire and I have no friends. Why do I have no friends? It's the Jews.
God, not my complete disregard for reality.
So Una, this is where we're gonna move into the fun. This has been rough.
Oh, thank God.
And I think we deserve a bit of a reprieve. I think the audience deserves it. Because you see, this is about the time that Gerald was broke. His autobiography, written by Glenn Jean Son, stated that around 1964, Gerald had about $5,000 to his name. And so using the last bit of the money that he had, he moved his family to Eureka Springs, Arkansas, and bought a dilapidated Victorian mansion by the name of Penn Castle, and started to go about working on it. But it's around this time that he also fundraised about $1 million for the first of what he would describe as his sacred projects. And it would start with a statue by the name of Christ of the Ozarks.
Oh no.
This particular statue would be created by a man by the name of Emmett Sullivan, who worked on Mount Rushmore. Now, his main works are novelty dinosaur statues at Dinosaur Park in Rapid City, South Dakota, and a big ol' Apatosaurus just outside of Waldrug in South Dakota.
Oh, yeah.
I wouldn't describe the statues as good.
No.
I mean, it's one of them literally looks like a stegosaurus that doesn't know how to put on lipstick.
Oh, yeah, the wall drug.
They are just like hideous concrete dinosaur statues. But for some reason, Gerald Smith is like, yeah, I want you to make my giant Christ statue. So I'm going to send you a link of how Christ of the Ozarks turned out. I have a very specific opinion of what I think it looks like, but I would like to hear your opinion first.
All right, I'm looking. Yeah, oh boy.
Yeah, so for the people at home, let me get the exact measurements on this. It is 65.5 feet tall, or 20 meters if you're in every other country but America who uses a sensible system of measure. And it is stone and concrete, or I believe it's concrete, and it's like an eggshell white.
Yeah.
But yeah, Una, what does that look like to you?
It's if you took the was it Rio de Janeiro, the Brazilian statue, Christ the Redeemer, and just removed all joy and talent and just appreciation for culture and art.
I mean, I do appreciate the fact that Christ's arms are at a perfect 90-degree angle to his body. Yeah. And I think that's why it looks like what I think it does. I think if you removed the arms completely, it looks like a novelty dildo to me.
It is a 60-plus Pez dispenser.
Oh my God, yes, 100% yes. But yeah, it is a purely hideous thing. The Christ of the Ozarks would end up being completed in 1966. And currently you can buy a 5-inch version of it for $15, which makes the dildo comparison very weird to me.
But you're going from 60 feet to 5 feet. It's like, you know what? Neither of those work for me.
Maybe like 8.5 and we could talk about it.
Yeah.
So in the following year, Smith would build on to his sacred projects. On the same property, he would build the Christ-only art gallery, a Bible museum, which is a literal museum of about 6,000 different Bibles, including a page from the Gutenberg Bible, which I don't know if it's real or not.
Right.
It also has a Bible signed by all of the original Gideons, which just sounds like a bullshit sentence to me, but it might be real.
That's the thing. It's like, I hear that museum and it's like, part ironically, part just out of natural curiosity and enjoyment of old things. It's like, I would totally go to that museum, but I know I would be disappointed because it would largely be like just crappy, used Protestant Bible, like nothing of actual value or merit. It's like, yeah, this is the same shit I see in a Motel 6.
Oh, 100%. The one picture I saw of it, it literally looks like a library with a couple of really important things under glass, but literally everything else is just a library where you can't touch the shelves.
Yeah. And it's like, and again, just, I realize I say Protestant Bibles like they're somehow of lesser value, but in my mind, it's like, no, I'm coming for like King James, like written on vellum, maybe a little Book of Kells. Like I want to be seduced.
Well, I mean, we got a Bible in Esperanto. Do you want that?
Oh no.
So in 1968, he would create the thing that pretty much saved the town of Eureka Springs and still saves it to this day. Now, Una, I don't know if you know this about me, but one of my favorite things in the world to make fun of is outdoor theater. Seasonal outdoor theater.
I did not know that about you, Dusty.
This is terrific. So much about it that I find ludicrous, pointless, kind of problematic.
Incomprehensible in that you literally can't hear them at a certain point of the night because the cicadas take over. Yes.
You just described the entire second half of the Ohio outdoor theater play Tecumseh, also known as the time white people tried to slave the Cherokee but didn't try hard enough, apparently.
Oh no.
Yeah, a lot of the great outdoor theater is usually, or at least in the Midwest, focuses around a historically important Native American and the white people who weren't the worst.
This is amazing. This needs its own conversation because I grew up with Midsummer Night's Dream, Twelfth Night. It was always just safe, reliable Shakespeare that I could never hear, but it didn't matter because it was just going to be me and my friend like running around in the grass.
Yeah. Oh yeah, that is the best part of outdoor theater. Enjoying the plays, you're a kid.
Yes. Where your parents are like, come on, it'll be culture and fun. You're like, man, is there ice cream?
Yes, there's ice cream, and it's $13. But it comes in a Tecumseh mug.
Man, yeah, I never got the white savior guilt plays.
Yeah, I think it varies from region to region. And so Jerry, he's not all about the white savior play. Well, technically. Because what he would end up premiering was the Great Passion Play. That's right, an outdoor play about the crucifixion of Christ.
Oh, no.
Early reviewers of the play would criticize it as being anti-Semitic.
Oh my God.
But Gerald Smith, in one of the few interviews he did after his public life, stated that the play was, quote, the only presentation of its kind in the world which has not diluted its contents to flatter the Christ-hating Jews.
Whoa.
It became widely popular. While the folks at Eureka Springs didn't exactly much like Smith, his projects ended up revitalizing the town, bringing in tourists far and wide, and making him a local hero. His next big project was a $100 million recreation of the ancient city of Jerusalem that would include the Great Wall of Jerusalem, the Sea of Galilee, and the River Jordan, where people could be baptized on site.
But you're still just in the Ozarks.
Oh yeah, you're still in the middle of fucking Arkansas.
Just want to make that clear.
No, what, you don't want your baptism to be a cosplay, Una?
If you sell it like that, you know what? Sure, I'm on board.
So, and probably one of the best sentences that I researched in all of this. In 1976, Jerry Smith would die of pneumonia in his winter home in California. I hope it was long and terrible. I hope he was alone, and I hope the last thing he saw was a devil.
I hope it was a dry heat that somehow did not help him at all.
Oh, man. And even more delicious, he would die with the only thing being made of this $100 million recreation of Jerusalem would be the Great Wall. And after that, they would stop attempting to build all of Jerusalem. Jerry would be buried with his wife at the foot of the Christ of the Ozark statue, where hymns play 24/7 for the couple.
Ew. That's some North Korea bullshit.
It's pretty fucked up. And in 1977, the cross and the flag ceased publication. To bring things up to date, over 7.9 million people have seen the Great Passion Play since it premiered in 1968. And as you guessed it, it's still being performed to this date, COVID be damned.
Of course.
Here's
my thing.
Oh,
I was just, it's like, here's my thing, is that I'm pretty sure they made this whole Passion Play, and in my mind, it's like, that's just an Easter service. Like, why do we really need this additional? Yeah. Anyway, all right.
The Institute of Outdoor Drama at the University of East Carolina has dubbed the play America's #1 attended outdoor drama. So I think it's more than fair, after learning about such a shitty human being, that we get to spend some time mocking the fuck out of his longest lasting legacy. So Una, I'm going to send you the website for the Great Passion Play, and I'm going to ask you to screen share on your end so I know what you're looking at.
They're asking for money, so it is theater.
Well, and the amount they're asking for, though, is $300,000. During a time in which people are dying of COVID, they're going hungry. Thousands of people are about to be evicted, and these motherfuckers who sell out shows on a regular goddamn basis are asking for $300,000, and they have raised $252,000 of it already.
It's like, that is more than enough. You're like...
And they haven't even canceled their season. They've been doing the show all season. And Una, it's $30 to see the show. Actually, I'm going to go to... let's purchase play tickets for the 2020 season here. Let's open this bit of fun up. All right, so it's $30 to see the show if you're 17 and up, 20 if you're a teenager, 15 if you're a kid. But if you want the Passion Play and the Holy Land tour, which is essentially just touring the set, it's $50. But if you also want a backstage tour, it's $60 total for the whole shebang.
Why are not more theaters because we're not hot guard. What is happening?
You know how there were chariot races in ancient Jerusalem?
Why?
Where they used Shetland ponies instead of real horses?
Okay, how is this not already an HBO comedy series of like the chorus cast members working at this weird, regional theater / Williamsburg? This is so confusing.
Yeah. Well, and I'm sure you're asking yourself, it's outdoor theater. What happens when it rains? Well, from their frequently asked questions page, they say they will continue doing the play if it is raining, and if there is lightning that is far enough away, they will keep doing the play. But if they have to cancel, you do not get your money back unless you have paid $4 for weather insurance.
Wow.
Ooh, I didn't see the map. That fucking Busch Gardens map they got going on.
Oh God, that statue is just so ugly.
It's the worst. Oh yeah, they have a piece of the Berlin Wall that's there now. They have an all-you-can-eat buffet as well.
Oh, you gotta have that.
I mean, look, it's not it's not really Jesus being nailed to the cross unless you can have all-you-can-eat ribs. So the other fun thing is the guy there playing Jesus, I think he owns the park now.
Oh my God, good for him.
I mean, I'm sure it works out great. Look at that historically accurate costume.
Who are these actors? Are they actors? Are they
they're
just
not credited. I don't know who any of them
what?
are.
I mean, I'm not expecting them to get like SAG credits, but this terrifying 80s VHS film of it. Oh.
So one of my favorite details too about what is currently going on is if you go to Free Things to Do, I believe, look at the thing that's at the bottom.
So we got museums, trails, the cross, marketplace, church in the grove, Berlin Wall section, Israeli bomb shelter.
Yep. You see, the Great Passion Play has a genuine concern for the people of Israel, which is something that I'm sure Gerald Smith would really love. But essentially, they have taken an actual bomb shelter from Israel, put it underground, and you can tour it whenever you want.
This is so insane. Why is American Christianity so insane?
I mean, it kind of fits us, I guess. I don't know.
You need to stop doing the most.
So not only are they asking people to donate $300,000 to them, but this is an entire page where they're requesting free labor from church groups.
Oh, yeah. So now we know where the chorus comes from. This is so weird.
Yeah.
It's the weirdest fantasy camp ever. There we go. Cast and crew jobs.
Ooh, how much do they pay? Do they say?
That's exactly what I'm trying to look up.
Ooh, there's a returning new cast application.
Let's do new cast. Have you had prior experience in religious drama or other drama?
Ooh.
Any special?
We should fill this out and send it in.
Yes.
What roles are you interested in this season? I don't know. Which three would you pick? Which three are you most interested in?
Mary Magdalene.
Oh, that'd be a good one.
Mother Mary. The big hitters. And I think that's it. Those are the two women.
Yeah, those would be pretty great. I think I would want to be the awkward Roman who doesn't know what's actually going on.
Wait, what?
Crucifixion, I hardly knew her. There is a well on stage, so I could be like a baby who fell in a well. That could be really cute.
Yeah.
I could be the bear that eats those kids in the Bible. That would be fun.
It's a bear that eats children?
Yeah, God sends a bear to eat some children because they made fun of a guy who was bald.
Love it.
Like, I would love to go here for a day, but I don't think I could actually stay for a full day.
Yes, exactly. Yeah.
Here we are. What's on the buffet? I love that that's a frequently asked question. Oh, it's closed for COVID. You fucking cowards.
Give me my room temperature eggs.
I'm going to die watching Christ. I want it to be because I ate like tainted sloppy Joe.
God, they got a little bit of an upgrade too.
Yeah. Ooh, are there places to eat besides the buffet? Yeah, they have concessions with hot burgers, hamburgers, barbecue sandwiches, pizzas, nachos, popcorn, chips, and dogs. See, oh, yeah, the buffet, the one picture that I have here, it's literally, I don't know if they're baby carrots or cocktail hot dogs, but they're all in a very clear sauce. They have, like beans with weird meat in it. Just a whole trough of peas. That definitely Salisbury steak. Yeah, I mean, the buffet looks fun. Oh, and the most dried-ass ribs I've ever seen in my fucking life. I'm sure they're terrible.
Shame on them.
Jesus Christ. Well, I guess one of these days we have to make a trip down to Eureka Springs, Arkansas, and try our best not to get killed at this place.
Do we?
No, we don't. We genuinely don't. I've been to a Hell House, and I've been to any number of weird evangelical theater experiences. I don't know if we need this.
That said, I do enjoy going to terrible things that I know will be terrible.
I just want to know how much they pay. I mean, I am not an actor, but I feel like they would hire me and it would be a huge mistake on their part. I mean, not because I purposely fuck up, just because I'm not a good actor.
I mean, same. I don't like learning lines, which is why you do all the research and I come in for the lull.
Well, and on that note, everyone, thank you for joining us here on Gadfly. If any of you decide to go see the Great Passion Play in Eureka Springs, Arkansas, please let us know. Or if you've been, please let us know. I encourage you not to pay money for a ticket. If you can sneak in, it looks like there's woods around it. It looks like it'd be easy to get in there.
Go in as an extra.
Oh my god.
And then just don't show up. Sit in the audience. Don't even change.
Look, I'm a borderline atheist. This play will save me.
I need this.
Oh man, well thank you for joining us here at Gadfly this week. I promise next week we will not be talking about a Nazi and anti-Semite who created the America First Party. Instead, Una, we're going to be going into a deep history dive, and we're going to be talking a lot about slavery. Thanks, y'all. See you next week. Oh, man. Gadfly is a production of Added Serotonin. You can find us on Twitter and Instagram at gadflypod.